phase shift, sinusoidal curve fitting. Now this is the general form of the functions, sinusoidal functions we're going to graph. Now this A, it does affect the y coordinates by multiplying by A. Moves them, it stretches it out vertically. And then the B will either shift it up or shift it down. That's what that does to the y values. This omega will compress it, or it will stretch it horizontally. And this phi or this phi, however you want to say it, will help shift it right or left. We always use the opposite sign. We're still going to use the same formula for the period as we have in previous videos. And this new formula is for the phase shift. Now to graph it, I'm actually not going to do all this. This is what some books say to use. I'm just going to use this that was found here. And I'll show you how in just a second when it comes to graphing. But let's do a more basic example. Let's find the amplitude, which is A. And that's the absolute value of -2, because that's the A, which is 2. Now we want to find the period. We're going to use the formula 2 pi over omega. Now remember, this is omega. Well, omega is in front of the x. So what I need to do is rewrite this as -2 cosine. And then I'm bringing the 2 out. That's underneath. And we'll bring it out underneath a 1. X minus pi. And that's 1/2. Well, this is our A. 1/2 is our omega. So it becomes 2 pi over 1/2. I have to put that over 1 and then do 2 pi times 2, which is 4 pi. And then 1 times 1, which is 1. The shortcut way to do complex fractions. Which gives us a period of 4 pi. And then phase shift, we're just going to use phi over omega. And this is our phi, which is pi. Then our omega, once again, is 1/2. And if you want to do it this way, you can. You do pi divided by 1/2, which is the same as pi times 2 over 1, which is the same as 2 pi. And that's the answer to that question. Now we're going to graph. To graph, I want to find the amplitude, because amplitude is going to help us with the y values, and that's just the number in front, which is 4. I want to find the period. Once again, this is our omega, and this is our phi. So 2 pi over omega is 2 pi over 3. And then if I really want to find the phase shift, I can. I really don't need it, but let's go ahead and find it. I'm going to abbreviate phase shift as PS. Phi over omega. Phi is pi halves, and omega is 3. That's like 3 over 1, so it becomes pi over 2 times 3, which is 6. Now here's what I'm actually going to do to graph this. I'm going to use my basic sine function and then use the basic values that I've used previously in other videos. Maybe you've seen them, maybe you haven't. I'm going to use 0, pi halves, pi, 3 pi halves, and 2 pi. Now, when I graph y equals 4 sine of 3x plus pi halves plus 1, I'm going to do things a little differently. Now here's what we're going to do. I'm actually going to make equations out of these and then show you how to skip some steps. I'm going to take this 3x plus pi halves and just set that equal to 0. But before I do that, well, I'm going to go ahead and do that so I can find the x values. And when I do that, I'm just going to subtract pi halves. And I get 3x equals negative pi halves. And then I'm going to divide by 3, which is the same as multiplying by 1 over 3. I end up with negative pi over 6. So essentially all I'm going to do is divide or subtract pi halves and then divide by 3 or times it by 1/3. So let me show you. I need some space here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this pi halves, this x value. I'm going to subtract pi halves, which is 0. Then I'm going to divide that 0 by 3, and I get 0. So it goes here. I'm going to do the next 3. So let's take the pi now. Subtract pi halves. Now that pi, I need LCD. That's pi over 1, so I can actually times it by 2 to have common denominators. And 2 pi minus 1 pi is pi over 2. And then I'm going to divide that by 3, because I'm dividing by 3, which is the same as multiplying by 1/3. And I get pi 6. Now I'm going to do it again with the 3 pi halves. I'm going to subtract the pi halves. And 3 pi minus 1 pi is 2 pi halves, which is pi. Then I take that pi and divide it by that 3, and I get pi thirds. And then my last one is the 2 pi. So I'm going to take 2 pi, subtract pi halves again, put that over 1, times it by 2, times it by 2. 4 pi minus 1 pi is 3 pi halves. Then I'm going to divide that by 3, which is the same as multiplying by 1/3. These 3's cancel, and it leaves pi halves. By the way, see this? This is 1 pi 6. This is actually 2 pi 6, and that's 3 pi 6. Sometimes there may be easier ways to do these. But that's how I get my x values. Now what I'm going to do is find my y values. Now over here, for regular sine, if I use my unit circle, it's going to be 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0. 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0. Now to get my y values over here, I have to use this 4, and then this plus 1. So that means is I'm going to take that 0, I'm going to times it by 4, I'm going to add 1. So 0 times 4 is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. Now this one, I'm going to times it by 4, I'm going to add 1 to it. 1 times 4 is 4, 4 plus 1 is 5. This 0 I've already done, it's the same as that value. In fact, so is that one. So the one I'm left to do is negative 1 times 4 plus 1. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. And now I have my points, and I'm going to graph this. I'm going to take out a blank graph, and I'm going to do negative pi 6, 0, pi 6, pi thirds, pi halves. So negative pi 6, 0, pi 6, pi thirds, pi halves, and it goes from negative 3 to 5. So let's count this off. So what else do we have? Negative 1 also. So I'm going to count by ones. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the points that I have 1, 5, 1, negative 3, 1. 1, 5, 1, negative 3, 1. And so, I'm going to plot them, connect them. I can keep on going if I want to either direction. But let's look at our graphing calculator just to make sure that everything is what it should be. We're graphing y equals 4 sine. I better move it up. Y equals 4 sine 3x plus. Now I'm going to check my mode. I can leave it in degree or I can change it to radian. I'm leaving it. In fact, I'm going to do something a little different than what I've been doing in other videos. I'm going to put it in radians. And then when I do that, I'm going to use second pi divided by 2 plus 1. Let's graph it. You really can't tell from here, but you can see it's something, some stuff. But what I'm going to do is use trace, then type in negative second pi divided by 6. And we get a y value of 1. Then I'm going to hit 0, enter, and we get a y value of 5. Then I'm going to hit second pi divided by 6, and we get 1. Then I'm going to hit second pi divided by 3, and we get negative 3. And then second pi divided by 2, and we get 1. So everything checks out as far as the points go. Now if I wanted to, if I put in degree mode, and I would have used pi halves the same as 90, and then when I would check these values, that'd been negative 30, that'd been 30, that'd been 60, and that'd been 90. Just wanted to show you something a little different. Now our last example, we're actually going to write the equation. Now the form that we're looking for is a equals, or y equals a sine omega x plus phi, and then plus b if we have 1. So immediately we have an amplitude of 1/2, so we know that right now we have 1/2 sine. Now the period is pi fourths, so the formula we use for that is 2 pi over omega. Since we're given t, which is our period, which is pi fourths, we now have pi fourths equals 2 pi over omega. Now if you want to know the easiest way to solve this, cross multiply. Pi times w, it's pi omega I should say, equals 4 times 2 pi, which is 8 pi. We're solving for omega because that's one of the variables that we need. So divide both sides by pi. And we get omega equals 8. So now I have 8x plus, I now need my phi, or phi. Now we can use the phase shift to find that. So the formula for the phase shift is the phase shift equals phi or phi over omega. And the phase shift is given to be negative pi over 2. Don't know the phi or phi, but we do know omega, we just found it, and that's 8. Now this one we could also cross multiply, or we could just times both sides by 8. And when we do that, 2 goes into 8 4 times, and we're left with negative 4 pi. Now I did make a mistake because that's actually a minus sign. So it's going to be minus. By the way, in case you're wondering how I knew that, well, I memorized it for one thing. And plus, it's given. So, negative 4 pi is your phi. Drew the line wrong. I don't need that line. And then we don't have anything about b, so it's just going to be 0. So, I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. I'm going to erase this just a little, just get this out of the way. So I'm going to have some space for my final answer. So here's going to be the final answer. Y equals 1/2 sine 8x minus minus is plus 4. Don't need the plus 0. And that's the answer. Actually, that isn't the correct answer, because if you notice my phi has the pi in it, I left out the pi. So we need to put that in. I need a little space. So, always learn from my mistakes. Don't leave anything out. Never hurts to go back and check.